I want to bring in MS Now's Jake Traylor in Phoenix. Stuart Stevens is senior advisor for the Lincoln Project and author of the book, It Was All a Lie. Also with me, former Senator Barbara Boxer, Democrat from California. Stuart, I'm going to assume that you know what a corner store is, so I won't ask you that question. I'm sure, look, we're going to hear more about the president, about the Strait from the president when he goes to Arizona. How much do you think this news today might help him?
Well, look, I think it helps, but, there's something very odd going on here. Before we went to war with Iran, the Strait was open. So we went to war with Iran. Tragically, more Americans have died than in the failed Hosku rescue. We've spent billions and billions of dollars, estimates up to $2 billion a day. And we're desperately trying to get back to where we were before we started. It just is a complete sort of bizarre world that we're living in, that go to war to get what you had when you went to war. I don't know. The logic of this, I think, doesn't really strike many people. And Americans, if the best benefit is we're going to try to get things back before we went to war, I don't think that's a really powerful message.
Well, as per usual, Senator, Stuart makes a good point. So assuming gas prices actually do go down to pre-war levels, do you think the president will get credit for solving a problem he created?
Well, I think Stuart hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's like you wake up in the morning, you take a hammer, you smash your face, you look horrible. and then you get great treatment. And in 3 weeks, oh, you look good again. What was that all about? So, I mean, I believe in the intelligence of the American people. So I don't know how much credit he gets. Look, as an American, I couldn't be more happy to see things calming down. It's just been so terrible. But remember what he said about gas prices. Who could forget it? He said, oh, they're not so high. They were supposed to go much higher. He has no idea what it is. And the corner store thing, I grew up in Brooklyn, so I know what a corner store is, how he could actually admit that he's so out of touch. So I don't know where it all lands, but I believe that the people are smart.
I will say I grew up in a small town in Ohio, and we used to call our little grocery the corner store. So, but, Jake, give us the take from the White House. What are we hearing from officials there? Obviously, they think this is great news.
Yeah, Chris, look, the president is, of course, unsurprisingly touting this as victory, despite the fact that the Strait closing in the first place was a cause of the war that the president started with Iran now months ago. But the president is touting it as a complete and total victory and saying on Truth Social that this is going to be effectively the start of the Strait of Hormuz being open for forever and eternity. I'd say there's some contrasting language from the Iranian foreign officials who are saying that the Strait opening is a bit more contingent upon that ceasefire in Lebanon. It continues to seem that the White House wants to separate those things, while the Iranian officials want to couple them and say that the Strait remaining open. One, it's only open through the remainder of the ceasefire, and two, that it would require a complete and total ceasefire in Lebanon. But as you can tell, obviously, I'm not at the White House today. I'm here in Phoenix at this Dream City Church where Trump will be in just a couple of hours. And just want to give our camera guy a chance to just show this vast crowd of people. We've already been speaking with folks as the news came in real time about the Strait opening. A lot of the individuals, of course, like many of us, were hopeful that the Strait would remain open, that this would lead to gas prices going down, to grocery costs going down, to the overall economy benefiting, as we've seen really, really shortly in just the hours past. But it's also worth noting, too, Chris, there's a lot of work to do here because, Chris, we've spoken to dozens, if not hundreds, of Trump supporters over the past few days. We've been on the swing with Vice President Vance and Trump all week long throughout the Sun Belt of this country. And really notably, every single person we've talked to, when it comes to some of the policies Trump is here touting, no tax on tips, they say, look, that's great and all, but it is not near putting a dent in the actual legitimate economic crisis we are facing at the pump, at the grocery store. So many of the folks we just started to talk to here already are saying, this is great in theory. We need to see it actually come through. We need to see the effects of it in real time at the pump, at the grocery store. The president likely to say in his message to folks today as he speaks here, that is going to be the case. But as we know, it's not always easy to convince people the economy is doing better than it is, Chris.
So, Stuart, before this latest news. The Atlantic said, quote, almost every new poll is a red flag for Republicans, independents, young voters, and Latinos. Groups that were crucial to Trump's win in 2024 are not in the bag anymore. Then you've got this Yale Youth poll. His disapproval ratings among Americans under 35 are up. His disapproval ratings up since the fall, 10 points. He's going to be talking to that demographic today, or at least looking at the crowd, mostly that demographic. Those are the folks, many of whom feel it maybe the most intensively. They're the ones who say, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to afford a house. They're the ones who are saying, I can't pay off my college loans. So is there something he can convince them of, even if he can say, look, the strait is open and pretty soon the war will be over?
Yeah, we also haven't talked about the fact that now, for the first time since Vietnam, there's going to be automatic draft registration for these voters. That didn't happen before the war. So that's a really toxic cocktail in politics. You have low job opportunities, high gas prices, not good job situation for young people, and the draft. And that's a pretty bad mix. Donald Trump's style here, political way he operates, is just to say things are better than they are. It goes back to his whole positive thinking thing. So he'll just deny this, and then he'll attack someone else. I think it's getting old. Trump isn't going to be on the ballot. And I think Trump is running into a particularly dangerous political environment. But also, at this time, presidents tend to lose power. It happened to Ronald Reagan. And it's sort of this combination of events. The difference between Trump and like a Reagan is there is no way that Republicans can separate themselves from Trump, because if their opponent doesn't attack him, Trump will attack him. So they're sort of tied to the mast here. And I think it looks very bleak for him.
Well, Senator, let me play for you part of what we heard from podcaster Joe Rogan about the president and the war. This was just yesterday.
So what do you think of what's going on in Iran?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
All of it's terrifying. Most people that voted for Trump or wanted Trump to be in office, one of the things that was attractive was this no more wars.
Sure, of course.
And now we're in one of the craziest ones.
Yeah.
And China's flying in cargo planes filled with stuff. We don't know what's in there.
And Russia is giving Iran information about where our troops are.
Super fun. Great times.
But, Senator, as you well know, being mad at the president and voting for Democrats are two different things. Megyn Kelly, who said she's sick of Trump, also said he could drop a nuke and I'd still vote Republican. You know, that's the shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. In fact, in that Yale poll, Democrats only led the generic ballot by 2 points. Why does it seem so difficult for Democrats to turn that anger, that frustration at Trump into real support for them?
Well, first, let's look at recent history. We've won every election that I can think of, or we narrowed their lead enormously, shifted the vote. So in reality, it's happening. Am I nervous about it? Of course. You know, you've got to work really hard. But Megyn Kelly to say that, I mean, really? That's her problem, not my problem. But here's the thing. It's always the economy, as Stuart will tell you. We learned that a long time ago. And before the war, you had consumer confidence falling. You had inflation high and very little predictability and consistency. And as an old, really old economics major, those are the fundamentals. And even before this terrible war of choice, which Rogan describes, it was bad then, and we are winning, so I'm optimistic.
I'm going to ask you this then in the context of everything that you just talked about, and we're going to have a full discussion on this in our next hour, but California governor's race, which has been thrown into a bit of chaos with the exit of Eric Swalwell, and there are people who are saying the two Republicans could end up at the top after the primary. How worried are you about what's happening? And do some Democrats, to your mind, need to drop out?
Okay, first of all, the Swalwell thing was horrific, awful. And the one thing I'm proud of is how Democrats act. You know, when this happens, he is history. No more. Bye-bye. That's important. His getting out of the race in an ironic way makes it more plausible that a Democrat will be in the runoff. But my answer to you is yes, I've been on the record. If you're under 5 points, get out of the race. But I think the odds now are probably 90% certain that we'll make it into the runoff. You know, California, this whole notion of the jungle primary, I was one of the few people who voted against it because I believe Democrats should pick our person, Republicans should pick their person, and then let's go at it at the general election. This is a rough way to run. I did it once. I didn't love it. It's like running 2 general elections. Last point I'll make is, you know, people like Megyn Kelly, who share her view that Trump is bad and all of this, a lot of them will stay home. And what really matters here is enthusiasm. And if Democrats are enthused, and I sure hope they are, and they get out, and Republicans are not enthused, and a lot of them stay home, and independent voters are fed up. If you look at that, I think that's the big political story. The independent voters are walking away in droves from the Republicans. Then we'll win.